the Zia Cooking Kitchen. My name is Carrie and I am so excited and glad you are here. If you're joining us for the very first time, take a minute and click subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything and it helps me grow my channel and reach more people. If you're following along, I'm so glad that you're back in the kitchen because you know how much fun we have when we get together. And today we're going to make a really fun recipe, and that is for sopapillas. Sopapillas are fabulous. In fact, anybody who's lived in New Mexico and has ever relocated, one of the things they always tell me they miss the most is sopapillas. Sopapillas, for those who don't know, are deep-fried little pillows of love made out of pastry, and they are so delicious. They are wonderful, and today I'm going to show you how to make them dessert style. We're going to use them in a variety of different ways, and the next time we come around and talk about sopapillas, I'm going to share with you how to make them savory style, stuffed with picadillo or beans and cheese. But let's not waste any more time talking about this delicious food. Let's get excited and let's start making it. Today we're going to start with, and again, I know I talk fast, but I'm going to share this information with you. This is 2 cups of sifted flour. It's just regular all-purpose flour. You're going to sift it into a bowl. Make sure that it's big enough that you can work together with it. And we're going to go ahead and add in very simple ingredients. Today we have the salt, and that is just regular salt. And I'm adding in, and that was about a half a teaspoon, guys, and I'm adding in a full 2 teaspoons of baking powder. And baking powder is going to help these rise up and become fluffy little lovely pastries. And one thing I do like to interrupt myself, is not funny that you have to interrupt yourself because you talk so much, but I like to use vegetable shortening, okay? It's true. Vegetable shortening is something you can use. You can also use a vegetable oil, or you can use manteca, which is lard, and that's a traditional way of doing it. But I love just good old-fashioned vegetable shortening for this, and we're going to add in 2 tablespoons and put that into our dry ingredients there, mixing it together. And I use a fork to break it up. You can use your hands if you'd like, but at this time, I like to just get started with a fork. One of the things about this recipe is it's really fun to make, and I like to set these up in little separate bowls for my grandkids to work with it. One of the fun things I like to do is teach them how to make masa, or dough, and that is something that is important for them to learn so that they can create things like tortillas and sopapillas and the wonderful things we do here in the Zia Cooking Kitchen. Great. Now that you see that's well incorporated, you see it starts to crumble. This is my tip for a really nice, fluffy, soft sopapilla is to use hot water. Now, you can use warm or room temperature, but I try to get it where it's almost boiling, where it won't burn my hands when I work with it. And what this does, by adding in that warm, and we're going to start with about a half a cup, mixing it in, it really allows that vegetable shortening to heat up and get spread through the dough completely. And looking great. Now when you're working with this, we can always add a little bit at a time. And this is where the fun begins, because I'm about to get messy. And there's no way to do this other than to start to work with your hands. Now when you're creating this type of dough, you see it looks very crumbly, but it will start to incorporate very easily, coming together. And there are 2 secrets that I always share when I'm talking about making dough or masa for sopapillas. One of the things you want to do, and I'm not holding back in the mess making in this kitchen today, I'm just going to a little water as we go. I told you the hint about the warm water, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to make sure that we knead this for a full 5 to 7 minutes. And the reason we want to do that is as we incorporate it, twisting it back, getting it all together, is this is a dough that requires it to be really broken down, and so you're going to be kneading it for anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes. And it's important that we do that because it makes that light fluffy dough that's going to puff up in the oil. The second thing I recommend is that after you knead it and work with your dough, that we are going to let it rest for a good 20 to 25 minutes. Clean up a little bit of this mess here so I can show you how easy it is for us to start working this dough now. So we have it here, and when we're working it, we're just going to keep on going, and you'll see as it's coming together, it kind of has a little bit more of a crumbly part, and that's where it's important that we work this together. So, for the ease of this show, I'd like to show you that once we're done kneading it, I like to divide it up into 4 balls. You don't have to do it this way. You can let your dough rest in one large piece if you'd like, but this is the way that I like to do it. We're going to go ahead and place it in a bowl, and I have a damp paper cloth, a damp paper towel, I'm sorry, and I'm going to set that over, and we are going to cover this with a towel, and we're going to let it rest and put it in a warm place, which is my kitchen. It's always warm in here, and we're going to let this rest for about 20 to 25 minutes. Once your dough rests, thank you, we're going to see, as I remove the paper towel, we're going to go ahead and take one of these out. I'm going to work it again. Now this is where I'd like to make sure that everybody has their oil preheated. We're going to go ahead, and I'm using a Dutch oven, which is an enamel covered cast iron pan. This is really good for holding heat. You can use a regular skillet, but I like to use something with a little higher side. That way we don't have a bunch of splatter. And the other thing that we want to do is we want to have at least 1.5 to 2 inches of oil, and I use a vegetable oil when I'm cooking. And we want to make sure that that gets hot. Now, most of the time, everybody has their little hints. Some people like to take a little piece of the dough and drop it off and see that it starts to bubble. I found that just using a a thermometer, is really nice, because I like my oil to be at about 350 to 370 degrees, so we get a good, quick fry on it. It doesn't get oil soaked, and it allows it to puff up and be beautiful. So testing this oil right now, it looks like we are right where we want to be. We are looking at 360. So that is scorching hot. Love it. So we're going to take one of our balls that we have here, and I like to keep these covered when I'm not working with them. And I put a little bit of flour, not too much, but just enough so that we don't have any stick. Spreading these out just a little as we go. Now I'm going to be using this lovely rolling pin, and I'll tell you, this makes me think of my mom. Gets my heart a little fuzzy as I'm thinking about her, but my mom gave this to me as a gift on my 16th birthday. And my mom's a real jokester, or she was a real jokester, and she wrapped up this rolling pin for me for my 16th birthday, and she knew I was really hoping for something big and special. But I got this rolling pin, and I was so excited to get it. And she said, "Carrie, you're so funny. Your real present is in the driveway." She tossed me a set of keys to a used car. I can't tell you where that car is today, but I'll always remember this rolling pin and how much fun it was to get a gag gift like that, especially one that I love and cherish now. Sorry, my voice cracking a little bit thinking of my mama. So as I'm working this, I'm going to be rolling it out. And we don't want it to be as thin as a tortilla. We want it to be about 1/8 of an inch. And these don't ever have to be just perfect. In fact, one of the fun things I like making about tortillas is making all the fun shapes. Excuse me. You can use a knife, you can use a cutter, a pizza cutter, whatever works best for you. But I like to go ahead, and I'm going to show you some different techniques and ways of making them. When I'm making sopapillas dessert style, I like to make them big enough that we can stuff them with some goodies like honey, cinnamon, sugar, that type of thing. And so that's something you might want to think about. And then look at the thickness of it. We don't want them to be too thin. So let's go ahead. The first one, I always say, let's see how it goes. Join me as we have some fun. We're going to drop this in that hot oil now. One thing I like to do as they rise to the top, and be very careful when you're working in your kitchen, is I like to make sure that I'm splashing the hot oil on the top. And you can see how they rise up and look just so beautiful. Oh, that's my favorite part, is to see the big bubble come up. And once they're lightly brown, you're going to go ahead and flip them over. Now, some people are really, really good at being able to cook 3 or 4, but I'm a girl that likes to take a little bit more time in my kitchen. And once I get one going down, I'll start the next. That is delicious. And that is what they look like. We're looking like a nice little fluffy piece of dough. I use a wire rack, and I like to put paper towel underneath it. I find that putting it on the wire rack allows them to drain, and they stay really crispy and fluffy and nice. So here we go, working in batches. Again, being careful, letting your dough completely golden up. And you want to be real careful when you're splashing your oil. Not only can you make a mess, but you can have a really bad injury if you're not smart. Working in your kitchen is really fun. Now, in New Mexico, when you go to restaurants, especially here in southern New Mexico, you often get asked, would you like your sopapillas plain, or would you like them with cinnamon and sugar? And so I'm going to show you how to make both of them today. And this guy wants to just float upside down. He's having such a good time in that hot jacuzzi oil. There we go. You see how quick they're coming together? They only take just a few moments, but remember, we want to make sure our masa has had time to rest. We want to make sure that our oil is hot and delicious. Fast and easy. Once you learn how to do these, you are going to be much requested to make these in your house. In fact, during the birthday times, a lot of us, we really like to gather around and create what I call a sopapilla bar with different types of toppings. So I'll share those, some of those with you now. And I wanted to show one more time for those who maybe would like to see how I'm doing it. I'm going to spread this out, try to get it as round as possible. And again, I'm going to use my... And once it's rested, it becomes so soft. It's not a sticky dough at all. Now you want to be real careful again. If you don't tend to these, you're going to get a real hard cracker, and that's not very fun to eat. You want to make sure that you have some good pillowy dough going in. So again, and you can cut these in different shapes. And so this time around, I'm going to make them a little bit smaller so I can show you how I like to do them with the cinnamon sugar part. Again, this is a much requested recipe. It's very traditional in New Mexico to have these lovely sopapillas to finish out our wonderful New Mexico meals. Oh yes, these look beautiful. Now when I make them smaller, I notice that they don't puff up as big as the larger pieces, but they still are tasty. And cooking these together, great. Now for our toppings, and I know I've got a lot going on, but I want to make sure that I share all these techniques with you while we're together in the kitchen today. One of our toppings that we can use when we're creating these lovely sopapillas is basically just our cinnamon and sugar. We're using 1/2 cup of sugar and 1 full tablespoon of cinnamon. And those are delicious. Now when I'm making the smaller ones, I like to reserve those for the cinnamon sugar, and I recommend that we put those in while they're still warm. Oh, that looks great. Let me grab us a plate. Thanks for following along. Make sure that you share this video with your friends and family who want to know how to make sopapillas, because I'll tell you, they are going to love that you were able to do this. So right now I'm going to show you just swooping these up, these hot little doughs. We're going to toss them around in our cinnamon and sugar. They get completely coated and they are divine. Just lovely. doesn't get much easier than that for lovely things. Now these are something my granny, we would like to do our cinnamon and sugar, but we mainly did them with honey. But these are perfect with coffee, especially when you need a break and you want to do a taste test. I highly encourage us to do that. Now the next simple way that I'm going to show off a little bit of a fancy sopapilla for dessert is to simply use some powdered sugar. And I like to just add that in there. Move that out of the way so we can get that look there on the camera. And we'll do one more with the powdered sugar. So when I'm creating a build your own sopapilla bar, I have all these toppings out and I let everybody just have a good time and go to town. Now we also have a great thing. We have some orange blossom honey that one of my cooking fans sent to me and said, Carrie, if you make some sopapillas and give me the recipe, I'll send you some honey. So this came from a good friend and it's orange blossom honey. And so that's going to be delicious to drizzle on. And then the last way I want to share with you how delicious that we can make a sopapilla and make a real treat is to, pardon me, I know I've got a lot of things going on here, but you can simply take your sopapilla and you open it up as such. How beautiful that is. And then we have our vanilla ice cream.
Oh!
Now you know me, I don't mess around when it comes to making delicious treats in the kitchen. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to get ourselves a nice scoop of vanilla ice cream. And I don't have my scooper out, so we'll make do with what I have out here now. And we'd like to put that inside. Oh, yes. And then we need those New Mexico pecans. The pecans are an important part of our state. The #1 cash crop in New Mexico is pecans. So we don't want to hold back. We want to add a little of that. And for those of you who would like a drizzle of some dark chocolate, you can do that. You can also use, you can also use caramel. There's a lot of wonderful ways that you can create this. And a little drizzle over the top. And we are in business. Lovely. Look at that. Now these are wonderful, 3 different ways. We've got cinnamon and sugar, we have powdered sugar, and we have all these wonderful desserts. And I'm going to go and jump in for my favorite and do this here.